In this video, I'm going to provide a comprehensive guide on boosting your overhead press strength. So we'll cover effective exercises, techniques, and strategies to help you bust through that plateau on the overhead press. Hey everyone, Camille and James here, 88 Fitness Training. Welcome back. Today we're going through the top 3 reasons you've reached a plateau on your overhead press and what you can do to fix that. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with insufficient mobility and range of motion, because this is probably where a lot of people fall short on why they can't progressively overload that overhead bench. So a good thing to start with is like, hey, can you reach your arms overhead and get them all the way back without having them fall forward? So actually, if I could have James turn to the side, let's turn the other side. All right, just try raising your arms overhead, right? Can you get them all the way back and open up these shoulders so they're in line with your ears here? A lot of people, when they do this, they're actually out here. And so if you're gonna be out here doing the overhead press, you're gonna have a lot of issues because you're gonna be using a lot of front delt.
That's all front delt out here, yo. That's all front delt.
Right, so just think about a bar. Pretend you're holding a bar. All right, so you really want that bar to end right here in the overhead press, which means you have to be able to rotate all of this backwards to get those arms in line. Like, you need sufficient shoulder flexion to be able to do this. All right, the next common mistake or issue is related to thoracic mobility in the upper back. So a lot of times when people try doing this, they can't hit it, so they start arching this back to be able to pull the arms backwards, right? So you're putting a lot of pressure on the spine. You need to be able to get the arms overhead with a neutral spine, right? So you not only need good shoulder flexion, you need good thoracic mobility as well. So go ahead, relax.
Also, what are you doing when you're leaning back like this? Now you're doing an incline chest press.
This is true.
You're not doing an overhead press.
Right. So if you are like, hey, I've reached a plateau, I cannot like overhead press anymore, look at yourself in the mirror and do that simple drill. Just, hey, can I actually open up those shoulders to get the bar overhead? If the answer is no, well, then you've got issues.
Right.
So let's go ahead and actually show them with a bar here. So he's gonna get into overhead pressing form. All right, so you see the bar starts in front of his body. Turn a little to the side if you can. No, other side. Other side, I want them to be able to see. All right, so he's in front of the body right now, and now come overhead. So see how his shoulders had to open up to get all the way out so they're in line with his ears. All right, a lot of people, like we said, they're out here somewhere, or they're arched to be able to bring it back. And again, they're using their front delt and they're using their chest. They're not using all 3 heads of the delt. So go back to proper form. You should end your overhead press like this, y'all. So go ahead and do a couple for me. Like this, boom. Shoulders open up to go straight overhead, just
Right.
like that.
If you're not hitting this position, you're gonna have a real hard time contracting your shoulders. I can't contract them until I'm right here.
Right.
Bam! And then I get the peak contraction. If you're out here, you're gonna have a hard time contracting those delts.
All right, so there you go. Number 1 issue with reaching a plateau on the overhead press is definitely a mobility or range of motion issue. So definitely check it. Common issue with reaching a plateau on the overhead press is not training it often enough, y'all. I mean, I think James has said this in other videos. Like, if you want to get better at overhead press,
Start overhead pressing.
you got it. Absolutely. I think a lot of times people put a lot more emphasis on like bench press and other pressing motions, but not necessarily the overhead press, because it's difficult and it hurts and it's not something you're going to be good at, right?
True. I mean, my whole shoulder workout, I'm barely losing my breath in between sets until the overhead press.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's intense. And you need to do the overhead press with enough intensity. I mean, really, when you're looking at it, if compared to your bench, you should be able to press about 50-60% of whatever your bench press is.
It's heavy, yo. You should be able to push a lot of weight. And a pro tip is do more than the machine overhead press, because your stabilizers are going to go nuts if you go to a barbell and a dumbbell and all you've been doing is a machine.
Absolutely. It adds that extra layer of instability in there, forcing you to recruit other muscles to assist with the overhead press. And it's really impactful if you do it that way.
Yep.
All right. So definitely, if you haven't been overhead pressing and you want to get better at the overhead press, start overhead pressing. It sounds simple, but hey, we got to go ahead and point it out.
And it's a big power movement. It's a strongman event, so that should tell you right there, you should be overhead pressing.
Absolutely.
Form discrepancy is another issue that's going to hinder your overhead press. One of the things that people do wrong is hand placement. You want your hands just outside of shoulder width when you grab your barbell right here, right? Just like so. Just outside of shoulder width, press them, and then back down. You can see there's a line right here. 90% of you people out there are going to be able to put your hand right there, and that's the proper spot for your hand placement overhead press. Now, if you're overly large or overly small, this might not work. But for 90% of people out there, your hand placement is going to be right there, right? Right. If you come in if you come in narrower, you're going to do it's more tricep. You're going to recruit a lot more tricep. If you go out wider, you're going to actually recruit a lot more tricep as well. So right here is your sweet spot, just outside of shoulder width. Once again, you see my hands just outside of shoulder width. Press them, and back down.
All right, the number one exercise, y'all, for overcoming that overhead press plateau is going to be the push press. So the push press is a great exercise because it allows you to use some of your leg strength to be able to press more weight. So we're going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. You're basically going to get under the bar and you're going to do like a quarter rep squat, basically. So just like that, squat down, pop up. So this allows you to use an explosive motion to press that weight overhead. So you should be able to do this with a weight that you cannot do strict overhead press with. So whatever your sticking weight is, go ahead and add a little more to that, and you should be able to push press it.
Yeah, this whole exercise was designed to get you past your plateaus on your overhead press. Because you're putting a little momentum in there, you can do a heck of a lot more weight than when you're seated or you're doing them strict. And the whole idea is add the weight, your muscles get stronger, your nervous system gets used to the weight, and now you can strictly push what you used to go and be able to do push press.
One caveat though, y'all, you have to pay attention to the eccentric portion. So yes, we're popping that weight up, but you really need to lower it slow because you're strongest in the negative portion of the rep. And this is where you're creating that tension within the muscle and providing that metabolic stress and stimulus that leads to growth. So this is why it's such an effective exercise at improving that overhead press.
Great tip, 100%. You slow that weight down, you're doing a negative rep because you're throwing it up with a weight you can't do normally, and then you get that 100% negative rep on the way down. Great tip.
So yeah, absolutely. So get into there, quarter rep on the squat, pop it up, lower it slow. As soon as you're back down, right back into it, just like that. So again, work this in. I would try to, even if you're doing your normal weight, do as many reps as you can. And then when you hit that sticking point, go ahead and add in 4 push presses, right? Or if you're just like, you know what, I just want to work on this, go ahead and hit 6 to 10 of them into your program, and it should help push past that plateau that you're hitting.
Yeah, you can push press some weight. There's a video of me doing 265, which is short if you want to check it out. But man, you got to load up the weight. That's the whole point of this exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so number one exercise, y'all, is gonna be the barbell push press. The next exercise we recommend is an Arnold press, right? So the Arnold press is really interesting because it adds an extra rotational motion in there, right? So your dumbbells are in front, you rotate out, and then press overhead and reverse. Just like this. So the Arnold press is really great because if you're struggling with that shoulder flexion and really opening up to get the arms back and overhead, it's gonna help work on that.
Another pro tip is you got a lot more time under tension doing Arnold press than straight up, straight down dumbbell press. You get that extra added rotation, more front delt because you're coming in front as well, and it's more time under tension. So you're gonna build a little more muscle and fire a little more muscle fibers doing the Arnold press.
Yeah, you also are incorporating a lot more stabilizer muscles into the Arnold press too, because of that rotational aspect. So definitely work the Arnold press in. I would say this is probably like the number 2 best exercise for busting past that plateau on the overhead press. All right, y'all, the last exercise we have for you is a Z press. So not very many people have actually heard of the Z press, and it's because they don't like doing it. It is very challenging, but it is really great exercise for improving your overhead press because it completely takes out the legs from the equation and it forces you to improve that core support and work on that thoracic mobility and strength. So let me show you what this looks like. And James might have to help me. You are completely seated on the floor and you're gonna get up under your barbell and you're gonna press it overhead, just like this. Taking your time. Again, you wanna make sure you don't have an arch in that lower back. You wanna keep a nice neutral spine. Really brace your core and press overhead.
These are super nasty, y'all. It is super strict. You're sitting on your butt, so there's no leg drive. When you're sitting on the bench, doing overhead press, you still have leg drive, just like on bench press, you still have leg drive. You are sitting on your butt. There is absolutely no leg drive. This is 100% shoulders, nothing else.
Yeah.
This is nasty, strict movement.
Absolutely, and you're definitely gonna feel it, y'all. You're gonna feel it all through the core, through the upper back. You're gonna feel it in the shoulders. Like it is forcing you to fix those issues, those problem areas that are hindering your overhead press. All right, so that's the Z press. Work it in. Let's see what you think. All right, y'all, well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. So just as a recap, we went through the top 3 common things that people struggle with to increase the overhead press. One, we talked about the fact that you actually have to do overhead press, right? James is big on this. If you want to get better overhead press.
Overhead press.
Absolutely, so make sure you're working that in. The second thing we talked about was a lack of mobility and range of motion. You have to be able to have that shoulder flexion to get those arms opened up and all the way back.
Yeah. That can take a while if you have flexibility issues, so give it time, stretch them out.
Absolutely. And then the thoracic, the upper back, you really want to be able to get the arms all the way back and not have to arch the back. So definitely work on that upper back mobility as well. And remember, a good test to go into this is, hey, can I get my arms overhead and all the way back? If the answer is no, well then there's definitely great exercises you can look up to improve that range of motion. And then the last thing is just the form, right? We talked about not going too wide and not going too narrow. There's a sweet spot. It's right outside your shoulders. All right, and then we took you through the top 3 exercises. So number 1 was?
Push press.
Yeah, y'all. So use a little bit of momentum so you can progressively overload to get past that sticking point on your overhead press. And then number 2?
Arnold press.
Yes, so the Arnold press added that rotational aspect in there. You have more time under tension. You're using a lot more stabilizer muscles. So if you're having that shoulder flexion issue, it's gonna help open you up. All right, and then the last one, the super challenging one that no one ever does is
Z press.
Yes, so it's gonna really force you to have good form with that upper back and you can't use any momentum. It is the strictest of strict pressing motions.
No doubt. You put these all 3, you work all 3 of these, your overhead press is gonna go up. You're not gonna give it a choice. You're gonna make it go up.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. For more like it, make sure you check out our shoulder playlist and then check us out live every Sunday at 12 Eastern. It's your opportunity to interact with James and I live as we cover different topics and answer any questions that you have. So we hope to see you this Sunday. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. 88 Fitness Training. Like and subscribe.